Hello. In this video, I will do an Alex math practice exam, practice one. So this is an Alex math placement practice exam. So let's begin. So I just want to note that when you are doing the Alex math placement exam, you will have a calculator, like an online calculator, but it's not going to be like a Desmo. It's going to be, and you can't bring your own calculator. They'll provide you you'll see what I mean, but they will provide you your own with a calculator if needed. So let's start with question one. So question one says, which graph represents the equation y equals 2x minus 20? So I know this is a linear line. Why do I know y equals 2x minus 20 is a linear line? Because it's in the form of y equals mx plus b. Okay, that's a big hint. So is there anyone that you can eliminate now that you know it's linear? No, because all of them are linear. So now what we got to do is do more investigating. So we have everything we need, believe it or not. My m is the number in front of x, and my m is 2 or 2 over 1, and my b or my y-intercept is negative 20. So which of this graph has a y-intercept of negative 20 and a slope of positive 2? So I can eliminate a immediately. Why can I eliminate a? Because this slope is supposed to be positive. See how this graph's going negative, so we can eliminate that one. Let's see if this one works. So can I use this one? Yeah, it does have a positive slope of 2, but does it have a y-intercept of negative 20? No, it looks like it has a y-intercept of positive 20, so we could forget about that. What about graph C? Looks good. I mean, it has a positive slope. It also has a y-intercept negative 20. Now, what about D? It looks also good as well. See how it's a positive slope and it has a y-intercept of negative 20? Now, which one do we pick? Is it C or D? Um, what we could do is we have the y-intercept. We could also find the x-intercept, right? I could technically find the point, but the thing is, it's a little bit iffy. It's like, see on the x-axis how it's like not going by one. I think it's going by tens. Um, you could I mean, you could plug in the x value 10, and if it spits out a y value 0, that's the one. So let's kind of do that. So if I plug in my x value 10, or if I even try to find the x-intercept, that's what I could do. So how do you find the x-intercept? You set y to 0 and solve for x. So you're going to add 20, divide this by 2, and you get x equals 10. So you have an x-intercept of 10 comma 0. So that's the one. That's the graph. Yep. So this one has a positive slope of 2 over 1, has a y-intercept of negative 20, and also has an x-intercept of 10. You could also pick a random point. It would still work. Okay. So I'm going to use C. Let's move on to question two. Which expression below is equivalent to this? So all you got to do is basically they just want you to FOIL and clean it up. That's it. The first thing I would do is FOIL out this negative 4. So this is going to be negative 4y squared. And then negative 4 times negative 9y is positive 36y, right? And negative times negative is positive. And negative 4 times positive 2 is negative 8. We haven't done anything with this, so just bring it down. And then what you want to do is collect like terms. So I always go from the highest power and then go below. So my highest power is y squared. So I have a 3y squared and a negative 4y squared. That is going to be negative 1y squared. And then my y's, we have a 7y and a 36y. What is that going to be? What's 36 plus 7? So 7, that would be positive 8, 9, 10, 11. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. That's 43y, right? And then let's see, what else do we have to simplify? My constant's negative 8. So which one is this? That looks like it's C. Negative y squared plus 43y minus 8. Yes. Let's move on to question 3. What is the domain and range of this graph? So it looks like it's either a sine or cosine. I forget, but that's not really important. Well, it is kind of important, but not really for this question. I think it's a. Let me double check. I'm trying to figure out what kind of graph this is. Is it a sine or a cosine? Let me double check. Yes, I believe it's going to be a sine graph because it goes through the origin. Okay, so we know it's a sine graph. What is our domain? So we can't say all real numbers. No, we can't. The reason why we can't say all real numbers is because it doesn't have arrows. It actually has a stopping point. So in interval notation, we like to go from the smallest x value to the largest x values, right? So what is my smallest x value? I think it stops right here, which is at negative 15. I'm going to use parentheses because it looks like all the choices are in parentheses. Usually I stick with brackets, but in our case, everything's in parentheses, so let's use parentheses. What is my highest x value? I think it's 10. Yes, it is not. I don't think it is. It is 10. And let's do our range. So range is from smallest y value to largest. So it looks like my smallest y value is at negative 2, and my largest y value is positive 2. Okay, there is your answer right there. So which one is that going to be? Is it A? No. Is it B? Domain negative 15, 10? Yes, it is definitely B, right? Domain is negative 15 to 10. My range is from negative 2 to positive 2. Perfect. Okay, let's move on. Question 4, we have x3 divided by x to the negative 4. So if you recall your exponent rules, sometimes you need a refresher. When you're dividing with the same base, you technically subtract the exponent. So for example, x5 divided by x3, it would be 5 minus 3, just 2, right? Okay, now what would be ours? It would be, so it's going to be 3. Now be careful, there's a minus, so it's 3 minus a minus 4. Okay, and what happens when you have two minuses? It becomes a positive, so that's going to be 4 plus 3 is 7. So it'd be x to the 7. Let's see. Oops. Okay. Sorry about that. My writing tablet kind of, yeah. So it is C. Okay. Let's move on. Okay. This one, question 5. We have 3 raised to the 5. So, I mean, you could technically put in the calculator if they give you the option, because sometimes they won't. Uh, it depends on what question. Yeah, sometimes you can use a calculator, sometimes you can't. But if you can't, 3 to the 5 is the same thing as 3 times 3 times 3, 3. 3, right? 5 times. So we know that 3 times 3 is 9, 3 times 3 is 9, and then times by 3, and then 9 times 9 is 81, times by 3, and I think that's 243. Yep, 240. Okay, that was that one. Sorry about that. Okay, let's move on to question 6. So question 6 says, if x equals negative 360, what is the absolute value of x? Well, this one's pretty simple. If they're saying that x is negative 360, it's basically saying what's the absolute value of negative 360? And if you recall, the absolute value of any number always comes out positive. So even if it was absolute value 360, it's still going to be positive 360. So the absolute value of negative 360 is positive 360. Find the solution for this quadratic. So the good news about this, it's already in factor form. Some people can see that in their head, they could just automatically see that x is positive 4 and x is negative 3 halves. Some people could see that. But for those who can't see it, what they're really doing is they're setting each parentheses to 0 and solving for x. So for example, set x minus 4 to 0, and then x plus 3 halves equals to 0. Solve for x, you're going to add 4. You're going to get x equals 4. And then over here, you're going to subtract 3 halves, and you get x equals negative 3 halves. Okay, so my x is 4 and negative 3 halves. Lot it up. Letter A. Okay, this one, question 8. We have 6. Oh, be careful. So this is an order of operation problem, but be careful. I kind of made a mistake when doing this problem. This is not 36. This is 3 times 6. And then you have this slanted line. I don't like slanted lines. So what you could do is rewrite this problem as 3 times 6 plus 4 times 7 plus 2. And then the slanted line is the same thing as horizontal line, all of 2. Okay, so I rewrote it to make my life easier. So what would I do next? So according to the pandas, do we have a parentheses? Yes, we do. And the good news is there's only one order of operation inside this parentheses, which is addition. What's 7 plus 2? 9. Okay. So 7 plus 2 is 9. And then I'm just going to bring down what I have not done. So I'm going to bring down this 4. I'm going to bring down this plus, and I'm going to bring down this 3.6. And then all of 2. So that's the mistake I've done is like bring down what you haven't done. Rewrite it if you have to. Because if you try to do it on your head, you can easily make a mistake. The next thing is, do we have an exponent? No. Do we have a multiplication? Yes, we have two. So this is a multiplication. 3 times 6 is 18 plus, what's 4 times 9 is 36 over, and then we still have to have that fraction. We have the multiplication. Do we have a division? Yes. The division is 36 over 2, which is I think 12. I can't believe. Yeah. I mean, not 12, 18. 2, and then it says 18. And then 18 divided by 2 is 9. And then the last one is addition, which we do. So 18 plus 9 is 27. Okay, so don't, yeah, just when you do these problems, just do what you haven't done, bring down what you haven't done, and just try to stay like in order. Wait, did I do this right? Oh, I made a mistake right here, right, this part right here. 9 times 4 is 36, divided by 2 is 18. So you don't have, divided 2 twice. So now it's really just 18 plus 18, which is 36. Wow. See how easy to make a mistake? Okay, that was D. Let's move on to 9. Which graph below best represents the function y equals 3x squared? So, um, what do we know about this graph? Y equals 3x squared. I know it is a, I know it's a quadratic parabola, right? Uh, yeah, I know it's a quadratic parabola because it has a power 2. I also know because this 3, the a value or this 3 is positive, it's going to be open up. So that's a few selections you can just eliminate. So can we eliminate the first one? No, it's a quadratic parabola, and because it doesn't also have it does not have vertical shift. You do have a starting point at the origin 0, 0. So yeah, it could be the first one. It's a parabola. It has a starting point of 0, 0. It's concave up. Yeah. What about the second one? No, it's concave down. What about the third one? No, we can't use. Why can't we use this? Because it looks like this parabola is shifted some units to the left and then some units down. There's no horizontal or vertical shift in our parabola, right? So we can forget about that one. This looks good. It's concave up, parabola, and it has starting at the origin. It's either A or C. So what we're gonna do is probably we're gonna have to find some random points. So we have our graph is y equals 3x squared, right? Let's just go easy. Let's try on the x-axis. It looks like they're going by ones. One, two, three, four. So check one, two, three, four, five. Yes, they're definitely going by one. So let's try one. One square is one times by three, so that's going to be one third. One comma third. This one right there. That looks good. Let me see the last one just to be sure. No, over here it's 1, 1. That's not what we want. We want a coordinate of 1 comma 3. So we can forget about that. Okay, so question 9 is A. Okay, so here we have a circle, x minus 3 squared plus y plus 3 squared equals 9. We need to find the graph that represents that. So what we got to do is first find the center. So my center is going to be the horizontal shift and the vertical shift. So we have a horizontal shift of 3. Now, why is it positive 3? Because this is always the opposite. We're shifting it 3 units to the right. And then we have a vertical shift of a negative 3. Okay. Why is it negative 3? Because this is always the opposite, right? And what is my radius? Well, it's not 9. It's actually whatever the square root of this. So what is the square root of 9? It is 3. Okay, so after you put your center, you're going to go 3 units to the right, 3 units to the left, 3 units up, 3 units down. So let's see the first one. Let's see. Be careful on the x-axis. It looks like they're going by, yeah, so 3 comma -3. Yeah, it looks like, and then you see, like, they don't show it to you, but the center should be right about here somewhere, right? And then from this center, you go 3 to the right. 1, 2, 3, yes. 3 to the left. 1, 2, 3, and yes. And then 3 up. 2, 3, yes. And then 3 down. Yes. That might be it. Is it B? No. Our center is +3, -3. Is it C? No. Because the center should be +3, -3. Is it the last one? That's good. Oh, it does have a center 3, but from this center, as you can see, here's 3, -3. And then if you go 3, yeah, 1. No, I don't think it's D. Go check my work. I mean, my notes. Yeah, I think it's this one. This one. Next. Question 11 says, what is the equation of a line that passes through the points -1, 3 and has a slope of 4/5? So if you look at all our choices, A, B, C, D, they're all linear lines, right? And so we can't just like exclude them because they're all linear lines. So what is a linear line? It could be in the form of y equals mx plus b. I mean, there are other forms, but if you look at our choices, they're all in the form of y equals mx plus b. And they give us a lot of information. They tell us the slope is 4/5. So that means my slope, my m is 4/5. But they do not give us our b. They don't give us our y-intercept. Instead, they give us a coordinate of -1, 3, right? So what you're going to do is, let me rewrite it. So my m is 4/5. And what I'm going to do is plug in this point, x and y, to find b. So I'm going to replace this y with the coordinate 3, and I'm going to replace this x with -1. Okay, and 4/5 times -1 is -4/5. And then I'm going to do is I have a fraction. I mean, I technically can add 4/5 if I want to. I have a fraction. I don't like fractions, so I'm going to get rid of that fractions immediately. And to get rid of the fraction, I'm going to multiply all 3 sides by the LCD. So if you look at your bottom, we have a 1, a 5, and a 1. My LCD, click, it is 5. So I'm going to multiply all 3 sides by 5. So 5 times 3 is 15. 5 times -4/5, the 5's disappear, so you're left with -4. That's what we want. 5 times b is 5b. Okay, solve for b, so you're going to add 4 to both sides. So 15 plus 4 is 19. Solve for b, so you're going to divide both sides by 5. The b is 19/5. So my final answer is going to be 4/5 x, and my b is 19/5. So it looks like it's C. Question 12, convert 3/8 into percentage. So if they give you a calculator provided, you could just put 3/8. They'll give you a decimal and then times it by 100. But if you want to do it without a calculator, what you do is put the numerator goes inside the box, so 3 goes inside the box. The denominator goes outside, decimal place, 0. How many times does 8 go into 30? About 3. So I put 3 above the 0, right? 8 times 3 is 24. 30 minus 24 is 6. Bring down the 0. How many times does 8 go into 6? About 8 times 64. How about 7? Because 8 times 7 is 63, 56. What's 60 minus 56? 4. Bring down the 0. How many times does 8 go into 40? Exactly as 5. Now they want a percentage, so what we got to do is move the decimal because we have to times by 100. That's the same thing as moving the decimal 2 places to the right, so that's going to be 37.5%. Okay, so that would be letter A. Okay, this one, find the union of the following intervals. So don't be, this is not as confusing as it looks. I mean, it looks confusing. What you want to know is when you're dealing with interval notation, you always go from the smallest to the largest. So small, and then the next one is the largest, right? So let's pretend these are all x values. What is my smallest x value? It looks like it would be negative infinity. And then what is my largest x value? So it's not negative 5. It's not 3 because that's not the largest. 14 maybe. Yep, it's definitely 14. And they include the bracket, so I think our interval limitation is from negative infinity to 14. That's it. So you just need to know from interval limitation, you go from smallest to largest. That's all you need to know. Okay, 14. Solve the equation. We have 3a minus 24 times 5a minus 2 equals negative 12. So this one, yeah, you don't have to work. Just FOIL out this negative 24 and then if you have a fraction, get rid of the fraction. So let's first figure out what's negative 24 times 5/8 a. So this is a fraction. So when you multiply fraction, you multiply across. So what's negative 24 times 5? It is negative 120. And then you have this 1 times a to 8. And then you can put the a in the center. And then what's negative 24 times negative 2? It's positive 48 equals negative 12. And then we didn't do anything with this 3a, so just bring it down. Now, should we multiply everything by 8? Not yet. First, check if this comes out evenly. So negative 120 divided by 8 is what? Negative 15. And then you still have the a, right? Okay. And then let's try to collect like terms. So what's 3a and negative 15a? That is going to be 3 minus 15 is negative 12a. Continue solving for a, so you're going to subtract 48, and you get negative 12a. And then negative 12 and negative 48 is negative 60. Get rid of this negative 12, and you get 60 divided by negative 12, or negative 60 divided by negative 12 is positive 5. Okay, so it's letter D. Okay, question 15. What is the angle theta? What is the, yeah, what is angle theta? So what you have here, we have a triangle. They give us two angles, 36 and 53. What we got to do is find out this missing angle. So to figure this out, all you got to do is, we know that the sum of a triangle, it doesn't matter if it's a right or a non-right or obtuse or acute or right. It doesn't matter what type of triangle. We all know that if you add up all the angles of a triangle, it adds up to 180. So you could do 36 plus 53, and then I don't know what our theta is, so we'll just leave it as theta. And then go ahead and solve for theta. So what's 36 plus 53? It is 89. Okay, and then continue solving. Subtract 89 from both sides. So 180 minus 89 is 91. And there's your answer, C. Too bad, right? Uh, question 16. If a circle has a diameter of 8 centimeters, what is its circumference in an area? So here, I'm not sure if I don't think they give you all the formulas. I do think you have to know some of the formulas. But let's draw a circle. And let's pretend this circle has a diameter of 8 centimeters, right? Diameter goes all the way in the center. And we want to find the circumference. So what is the circumference of a circle? It is 2 times pi times r. And what is the area of a circle? So that's something you should know. My notes, I don't know. I forget to pi r squared. Okay, so the area of a circle is pi r squared. So we kind of have a problem. We need to find our radius. We don't have a radius, we have a diameter. So my radius is just half of 8. So 8 of 2, which is 4. So it's going to be 2. So we can find our circumference. 2 times pi times my radius, which is 4. And that gives me a circumference of 8 pi. Okay, now find the area. So the area is going to be pi. And then my radius is 4. So that's going to be 4 square. 4 square is 16 pi. Okay, so here's my answer. 8 pi and 16 pi. And that would be letter C. Okay. Question 17. You launch a banana high up in the air, and its altitude meters is given function of time by the equation below. What is the maximum height of this banana? So yeah, this is a quadratic, and what you need to know is they're asking you what is the maximum height. So it's real whenever you hear the word maximum or minimum, it's automatically a vertex. The question is, are they asking for the x value of the vertex or the y value of the vertex? So what you need to know is kind of figure out what is my x and what is my y. So I believe our x, if you were graphing on a plane, Cartesian plane, our x is my time. And I believe our y is the height. Okay. So what we got to do, they're asking what is the maximum height. I believe they're not asking for the time, so I don't think they're asking for the x value of the vertex. I believe they're asking for the y value of the vertex. But unfortunately, in order to find the y value of the vertex, we got to find the x value. So to find the x value, you could use this equation: x equals opposite of b over 2a. And let's see, let's figure out our A and B. So my A is negative 9.8. My B is 40, and my C is 2. So my B is opposite of 40, which is negative 40. And then my A is negative 9.8. It's 2 times negative 9.8. Negative 19.6. Two negatives becomes a positive, so that's going to be 40 over 19.6. Now, that's our answer. Now, in order to find the y, you just plug in that back into the equation. And when you do that, I think you can, they will allow calculus for this problem. Um, Let me look at my notes. When I did this one, it should spit out, spit out. Yeah, so when I did it, it should spit out. Oh, it should spit out 42.82. Well, actually, it gave me, when I put this in the calculator, I did originally got 42.816. But if you look at all the choices, they rounded to two decimal places, hundredths place. So what you got to do is look at this one, look at the neighbor. If it's five and beyond, you do round. So it's 42.82. Okay. So yeah, you have to know how to find the you had to find the vertex of a quadratic, and you have to figure out which do they want, the x value or the y value of the vertex. We want the y value for this problem. Okay, let's move on. Okay, number 18, find tan inverse of square root positive square root of 3. And if you look at our choices, yeah. So it looks like what you need to know is, I mean, you could try putting this in the calculator, but what they're really asking is what they're really asking you, what degree in your unit circle from 0 through 60 gives you a tangent of positive radical 3. So let's first figure out which quadrant shall we use. We can eliminate some of that. Can we use quadrant 1? Yes, because remember, tangent is x, y over x. The x is positive, the y is positive. Can we use quadrant 2? I don't think so. The x is negative, the sign or the y value is positive, y over x is not positive, right? What about 3, quadrant 3? The x is negative, this sign is also negative. Tangent is y over x, so yeah, that could be possible. What about 4? No, the x is positive, the sign is negative. No. So let's first try 1. So um, it's either 30, 40, or 60. In quadrant 1, it's either 30 degrees or 45. I don't think it's 45, and you'll see. And it's or 60. So you kind of need to know, kind of, you need to know your unit circle. So do you know what is the coordinate for 30 degrees? So the coordinate, this is something you should know. the coordinate of 30 degrees has an x coordinate of radical 3 over 2, and then a y value of 1 half. Let's test that. So this is your x, this is your y. What is tangent? Y over x. So my y is 1 half, and my x is radical 3 over 2. As you can see, the 2's cancels, and you're left with 1 over radical 3. And if you try to rationalize the denominator by multiplying both sides by radical 3, this will never give you radical 3. It'll give you radical 3 over 3. So no. And I don't think it's 45 because 45 has an x coordinate radical 2 over 2, radical 2 over 2. It'll give you 1. That's it. Now 60 maybe, because 60 degrees has it's like flipped, right? It it has an x coordinate of 1 half and a y coordinate radical 3 over 2. Here's your x, here's your y. So let's figure that. Is that true? So my y is radical 3 over 2. My x is 1 half. And as you can see, the 2's cancels. So you're left with radical 3. Bingo. That's the one. So what degree gives you a tangent of positive radical 3? Ours would be 60 degrees. Okay. Okay, 19. Which graph represents this graph? So we have f of x, or I'll just say y, is negative 1 over x minus 3. So what are we graphing? We are graphing what's called a rational function. And how do I know it's a rational function? Because it's in the p over x, p over q form. It's basically a fraction. That's how you know you have a rational function. So what do you need in order to graph a rational function? You need a few things. You need to find the vertical asymptote. So how do you find the vertical? You simply set the bottom to 0 and solve for x. So my bottom is x minus 3. Set that to 0, and you get x equals 3. So we have a vertical asymptote, or a VA, as x equals 3. The other thing you need to do is um, find the horizontal asymptote. So there's a little bit, few rules you need to know about finding the horizontal asymptote. So to find the horizontal, I'm going to say y equals. What you got to do is look at the highest degree on the numerator and the highest degree on the denominator, right? Okay, so what is my highest degree on the numerator? It's actually this negative 1, or negative 1 x 0, right? X 0 is 1, negative 1, right? Okay, look at the bottom. X minus 3. What is my highest degree in the denominator? Yes, it's this x1. This negative 3 does not have a degree. So what do you think? This is technically, there's like three rules. Is if it's top, bottom, or the degrees are the same. So this is bottom heavy because the degree on the bottom, x1, is larger than the degree on the top, right? So when it's bottom heavy, you do have a horizontal asymptote. It is y equals 0. So this is, do not say none because that's false. You do have a horizontal asymptote at y equals 0. Okay, so we found our two asymptotes. Our vertical asymptote is at x equals 3, and then my horizontal asymptote is at y equals 0. Then what you're going to do is kind of like graph it. And then you might have to plot some additional point, which is not bad. Okay, so my vertical asymptote is at x equals 3. Here's 3. Draw a dash line like that. And then my horizontal asymptote is y equals 0, so that looks like this. Maybe I should use another color, maybe blue. But this would be y equals 0. Unfortunately, we still need some more points. So what I'm going to do is test the right side of 3 and the left side of 3. That's probably the easiest. So let's test Oops. Hold on. My writing tablet's a bit off. There we go. Okay. So what I'm going to do is test the x value 4. I can't use 3 because that's my vertical asymptote. So I'm going to plug in 4 into this function. So basically where we see an x, plug in 4. So 4 minus 3 is 1, and then -1 over 1 is -1. So we have a point at 4 comma -1. So it'll be right here. Okay, that's good enough because now you know it's not going to cross the red dash line and it's not going to cross the blue dash line. So it's going to look like this on the right side of 3. Now let's figure out what it looks like on the left side of 3. So I'm gonna test the x value too. I won't use 3 because that's our asymptote. So I'm going to plug in 2 into your original function. So it's going to be -1 and then replace x with 2. So that's 2 minus 3. So that's going to be -1. And then 2 minus 3 is -1. And then negative divided by negative is positive. So it's 2 comma 1 right there. And as you can see, it looks like this. Okay. So which one is that going to be? It's it A. No, I mean, it does have the asymptotes. It doesn't show it to you, but you do see that. You should see that it doesn't cross this dash line. But as you can see, it doesn't be, our graph doesn't behave like that, so it's not A. Is it B? No. The vertical asymptote is way off. No. No. Oh, is it the last one? Yes. See how it has a vertical asymptote 3, horizontal, and then see right here, it goes like this, and then like that. So it's exactly D. Okay, question 20. On the unit circle, the x comma y coordinate, what is the x, what is the coordinate x comma y coordinate of the 60 degrees? So this is something you need to know, and it's just something you need to know. So in your unit circle, locate where 60 degree is. 60 degree is about here. And I believe it has, so this is how I remember it. I know that 30 degrees right here has an x coordinate radical 3 over 2 and a y coordinate 1/2. 60 degrees is always the opposite 30. So it has an x coordinate of positive 1/2 and a y coordinate of radical 3 over 2. That's how I know. But it's something you should know, memorize, right? So they're just asking for the coordinate, which is 1/2 comma radical 3 over 2, which is going to be B, right? X coordinate 1/2 and a y coordinate radical 3 over 2. Okay. Question 21. We have this fraction 7x squared plus 32 plus y all over x equals 7x minus 4. So you have two options. You can either cross multiply. Why can you cross multiply? Because there's only two sides. There's a left and then there's a right. If it was more than two sides, you would have to get rid of the fraction by multiplying by the LCD. And then the last option is you can get rid of the fraction by multiplying both sides by LCD, right? What I'm going to do is I'm just going to cross multiply. I don't know. I think it's easier. So this 7x minus y has a denominator 1. So go ahead and cross multiply. 1 times that is itself. And then x times 7x minus 4. Okay, go ahead and fill this out because it's going to be set x times 7x is 7x squared. X times -4 is -4x. And then this is going to be 7x squared plus 32 plus y. If you look at all traces, they're saying solve for y. So let's do that. The y is right here. That means I got to get rid of this, and got to get rid of that. So let's start with 7x squared. So how do I get rid of that? By subtracting 7x squared. Right? And then how do I get rid of this 32? By subtracting 32. And unfortunately, you can't combine it with a negative 4. You cannot combine it with a negative 4x, right? So my final answer is going to be, so this cancels, and then I'm going to put the letter first, so negative 4x minus 32. And that looks like it's letter A. Negative 4. Yes, letter A. Perfect. Find the domain and range of the function. Okay, find the domain and range of this f of x, of this exponential function f of x equals 2 raised to the 2x plus 1. So what I would do is write down everything I know about this graph. So I know this graph is definitely an exponential function. And how do I know? Because it's in the form of y equals a times b raised to the x. And I also know this is a exponential growth function. And why do I know? How do I know that? Because the base is e, which is technically greater than 1. E is about 2.1, right? So if it's greater than 1, it's a growth. And what else? I also noticed that it doesn't have no vertical shift. So what does that mean? It means if if you have a vertical shift, that would be your new horizontal asymptote. We don't have one, so that means our horizontal asymptote is at y equals 0. And then this 2x plus 1 doesn't really matter because we don't have to graph it completely nicely because yeah, you do have a that 2x plus 1 is a horizontal shift of negative 1/2, right? And how do I know? It's because you set the 2x plus 1 to 0 and then solve x. Okay. Yeah, that's okay. So what you want, like, if you kind of graph it, it's going to look like this. Because it doesn't have a vertical shift, I believe our 1 is set to the 0, comma 1. We know it's an exponential growth, so it's going to look something like this. And we also know that it has a horizontal asymptote of y equals 0. So what that means is, here's the blue line, just draw a horizontal dashed line like that. And they want to know the domain and range. So the domain of an exponential function, it doesn't matter if it's growth, decay, or yeah, it's always going to be all real numbers. And then the range is, so range is y value. So what's my smallest y value? Well, it doesn't cross the red dash line, so my smallest y value is going to be 0. And then what is my largest y value? Because this parentheses goes up, so it's going to be infinity. So my domain is going to be all real numbers, and my range is from 0 to infinity. So it looks like this one, right? Domain is negative infinity to positive infinity, and the range is from 0 to infinity. Perfect. Give me 1 second. I think I'm going to switch my writing tablet. But in the meantime, you can copy all my work. I'm still here. I got to change my writing tablet. Okay, so yeah, I believe it's C. Okay, 23. Convert pi over 5 to degrees. It's really simple. So if you have a radian and you want to convert it to degrees, it's really simple. All you got to do is replace the pi with 180 and then divide it by 5 because that's over 5. So what is 180 divided by 5? It is 36. Okay, 36 degrees. Okay, question 24 says find the what is the least common denominator of this monomial? So we have this is actually one whole term, and then this whole thing is one term. So we have 7x squared, y5, z cubed, and then we have 3x5, y squared, and z seventh. So what you want to do is for the letters, what you want to do is pick the one with the highest power. So let's start with the z's. We have a z cubed and a z5. Which one do you pick? The one with the highest degree, so you're going to pick z to the seventh. And then what about the y's? We have a y5 and a y2. Which one are you going to pick? The highest one, y5. And then our x's, x2 and x5. I definitely pick the highest power, x5. Now, what about the constants, 7 and 3? So we're lucky, 7 and 3 are technically prime, right? 7 is prime, 3 is prime, it can't be broken down. And they're different bases. If they were the same base, you would pick the one with the highest power. But because they're different bases, you just put it all together. So it's really 7 times 3, which is 21. So that would be it. Did I miss it? No. Okay, so that is, what is that going to be? I think it's this one. 21 x5 y5 is z7. Okay. Question 25, simplify the percentage. We have the square root of 144 x8 y16. So if you look at all the choices, there's nothing with a square root. So this is what's called a perfect square. Um, if you want, you can rewrite this. The square root is the same thing as to the power of 1/2. So if you want, you can rewrite this as parentheses 144 x8 y16 and then parentheses raised to the 1/2. So starting with the 144, that's like saying 144 to the 1/2, which is basically what the square root of 144, which is 12. And then x8 raised to the 1/2. Remember when you raise, you multiply the power. So what's 8 times 1/2? 4. And then 16. 16 raised to the 1/2. We multiply the exponent. 16 times 1/2 is 8. Okay, there's your answer. 12x 4y8. Okay, simplify. We have 8 raised to the 4/3. You could put that in the calculator. If you put that, it would be 8 caret sign and then 4/3. Um, and when I do that in the calculator, I get 16. But did you also know that x to the 4/3 is the same thing as the cube root and then 8
four times, right? So you remember this three represents circle pairs of three. So this 888 just becomes eight. And then you're still left with the cube root of eight. What is the cube root of eight? Two, right? Two times two is eight. And then you still have this eight. Eight times two is 16. Okay, so that's one way of doing it without a calculator. Solve for x. So here we have a right triangle and we got to solve for x. So what I would do is because it's a right triangle, you can do Pythagorean theorem, right? This will not work if it's not a right triangle. So, and how I know it's a right triangle because it has this little square box symbol. So Pythagorean theorem is this: a squared plus b squared equals c squared. A and b represents legs, so it would be like 2 square plus 4 square, and then my c is x squared. So 2 squares 4, 4 squared 16 equals x squared. And then 4 plus 16 is 20. Take the square root of both sides, and you get square root of 20. Now, square root of 20 can be broken down as what's two numbers multiply 20? 5 and 4. 5 is prime, 4 is not. It could be broken down as 2 and 2. And then you see that there's no number here, but there's like an invisible 2. What that means is you circle pairs of 2. So this 2 and 2 just becomes 2. And then inside you're left with 5. Okay, this one, find the solutions, find all the solutions to the equation cosine of 3x equals 1 over the intervals from 0 to pi. So what I would do first is, this is what I would do. Um, Forget about the 3x right now. Pretend it's like saying asking you cosine of x equals 1, right? So what this means is what degree from 0 to 360 or 0 to pi will give you a cosine or an x coordinate of 1. So in your unit circle, what degree gives you a cosine that gives you positive 1? That's only one choice. It's either 0 or you could also say 2 pi. Because 0 or 2 pi has a coordinate of 1, 0, right? And as you can see, the x coordinate is 1. So my cosine is going to be, you have 0 and 2 pi. Then what I would do is bring down the 3x. So it's going to be 3x. And then what I would do is solve for x by getting rid of this 3. I'm going to divide everything by 3. So 0 divided by 3 is 0. And then 2 pi over 3 is 2 pi over 3. So which one will that be? We need a 0 and at least a 2 pi over 3. Now it says from 0 to 2 pi. So is it the first one? We have 0, 2 pi over 3. Yes, yes. What about these ones? 4 pi over 3. I think those work because you can keep on going, right? 2 pi over 3 is not, what is 2 pi over 3? That's That's 120. We want to go all the way 360. So you can add more. You can add 4 pi over 3, and then you got to stop at 2 pi because that you can't go over 2 pi, right? So A looks good. What about B? 0 and then pi over 3. No, we need a 2 pi over 3 somehow. No, pi over 3 will not work, so we can't use that one. What about C? 0, pi. No, because remember we still had this 3x, and when we divide everything by 3, we get 2 pi over 3. So we need some kind of 2 pi over 3. So it's not C. What about D? 1/3 pi, no, because we need a 0 somewhere. So I think the correct answer is A. Okay, question 29. Solve the equation. We have log base 2 of x plus 3 equals 4. So how do we solve this log? What you got to do is convert it to power form. So what is power form? A to the y equals x. And A represents the base, the y, and the x. So what is my base? My base is this 2 here. Now, if you don't see a number, if this didn't have any number, it's invisible 10. And my y, this is how I remember it. My y is always on the right side or the left side of the equal sign. So my y is going to be 4. And my x is always in the parentheses. So our x is actually x plus 3. Okay, so we have that. Now let's put it in the form of a to the y equals x. So my base is 2, my y is 4, and my x is x plus 3. Okay, continue solving. What's 2 to the 4th? 16. And then solve for x and subtract 3, and I get 16 minus 3 is 13. Okay, last one for this test. Convert the following equation to its exponential equation. Okay, so we have log base, it's 30 is just like 29. We have log of x plus 1 equals x squared. So they want you to put it in exponential form or power form, also known as a to the y equals x, right? So what is my base? Now this one, this time it doesn't have a base. It doesn't have a number in front of log. So my a, if you don't have a number, it's invisible 10. What is my y? My y is always on the right or left side of the equal sign, so my y is going to be x squared. And what is my x? It's always in parentheses, so it's going to be x plus 1. Okay, so a to the y equals x, so it's 10 to the y, which is x squared. And then my x is x plus 1. Okay, and then it looks like if you look at all the choices, they solve for x, so I'm going to have to subtract 1 from both sides. And I get x equals 10, and then x squared minus 1. This one, right? A. 10 raised to the x squared minus 1. Okay, I know I already done this one, but let's just double check what we got. We should get 100. Which one did we got wrong? Let me double check. It says we got 29 or 30. Which one is that going to be? So, oh, I see. It's question three. So, let's see what it did wrong. Yeah, it's question three that I got wrong. Oh, wait. Which one is it? It's the circle. Yeah, question. I guess I think what I did was here, we got this one. I got this one wrong. So I still believe the center is still at three, common negative three, and my radius is not nine, but square root of nine, which is three. So what I think is like because of these are not really scaled correctly, that's one mistake I made. So be careful when you do to make sure the scaling is correct. So I believe the question correct answer should be the last one. Yep, the last one. So yeah, be careful when you're doing your exam. Make sure your scaling is correct. Yeah, it's letter D. The correct yeah. See, center has a three comma negative three. I just our radius is three. So because this is like not going by one, this is going by one. Oh, it is. Well, actually, no, they're going by two, right? This is two, four. So the three comma negative three is here, and then what you got to do is so locate your center right here. And then what you're doing is going 3 unit from the center, going 3 units to the right. So one, because we're going by two, so be careful. So this is one, and then one more would be right here. And then three to the left would be right here, and then three up there, and then three down. Bingo. Okay. Yeah, so be careful on the exams on this scaling. I'm going to stop here.